welcome back, it's Liz. So today I wanted to talk about a topic I've gotten a lot of questions about, which is bullying in nursing. So I might get a little fired up for a minute, so just excuse that. 50 to 60% of nurses report that when they first started their first nursing job, they were bullied by peers on their unit. Additionally, 70% of new grad nurses expect to be bullied when they go into nursing. Why do you, why? It drives me crazy that that's the expectation. You're going into this field, you're excited, but you expect that you are going to be treated like crap by your peers. It just makes me so mad. Obviously, this is something that's preceding our profession, and that's how people are viewing us. If you look at the top two things that people think of nurses, they're like, oh, it's the #1 most trusted profession, and they eat their young. That is not how we want to be known. So since this is so rampant, I've gotten a lot of questions on it, so I wanted to kind of address it and say what both my experience it was with it, how I have tackled it, and management strategies for if you see it happening among your own group of people. All right, so first we'll just kind of look at my background with it. This has always been sort of a sensitive topic for me since I have kind of a history with a little bit of bullying. So I have been 150 some pounds since 5th grade. In 5th grade, I was a lot shorter, so I was obviously the short little chubby girl with a unibrow and my hair was frizzy, so I was obviously super popular because children are so focused on what you look like, and I looked kind of odd. So it runs in the women in my family, so I'm really hopeful that Avery doesn't get that gene. But anyway, sidetracked. So I got a lot of kind of just made fun of when I was younger, and then I grew like a weed, which alleviated the being kind of on the heavier side. But unfortunately then I was the tallest person in my class, and I got boobs, and my unibrow was still there, and I was just hairy everywhere, and I was kind of awkward. I was just kind of, and I'm kind of a weird person, and I didn't rein that in at all, and so you just got bullied for that. And then I was in band in high school, didn't help. And this isn't about that. I'm just saying I know what it feels like to be bullied. So that was something I was just very aware of as I became a nurse, because I knew this was a problem in nursing, was that bullying was just kind of rampant, and really rampant throughout all of healthcare. I've seen a lot of bullying between other specialties. So between nurses, CNAs, between respiratory therapists, between residents, between phlebotomists, between pharmacists. There's so much, everything's a competition, and I just, be kind. People, just try to be kind. So I'm getting on a million tangents. I'm sorry about that. So like I said, that was just something I was very aware of and wanted to try to combat early on in my nursing career. I have been bullied as a nurse, more just people being mean. A lot of excluding happens. You're not in our group. I experienced a lot of that. And it's hurtful and it's hard. All right, so my first thing we'll talk about here is how to handle bullying. So the #1 thing with this, if someone is bullying you, being really mean, you cannot change them, but you can change how you react to it. So a lot of the times when people are bullying you, they're not going to be the best people. If you're going around picking on people and bullying them, they're not nice. They're probably not a nice person. They've got something going on in their life that they're taking it out on everyone around them. They're not happy, whatever. And you can't change them, but you can change how you react to it. So, when people, this took me a while to realize, but eventually when people come up and they're just outright mean for no reason to me, I'm just meh, okay. And I know that's not everyone's personality type, but if you could try to just get there to the point of, I would tell myself when people are mean to me, I'm just okay, they're being mean to me. They're obviously, something's going on with them. They have their own issue over here, and I'm just going to try to not let it get to me, because that was uncalled for, and I, just out of nowhere and rude. And I can change my response to it, and hey, maybe it's a learning opportunity. That was really mean. You could have said it a lot nicer, but you're kind of right. I should do this differently. Or just that was really rude. I don't care if you don't like my shoes. I like them. Just try to change your view of it and know that you can't change theirs. And along with that, I usually just try to, if I really need to, focus on the positive. Wow, something really must be wrong in your life. I'm glad I like my life, and I'm not a miserable person like you are. #2, the second way to kind of combat bulliness is to kill them with kindness. I hate when people do this to me. When Joe and I are arguing, or I'm arguing with anyone and they're just nice back to me, and I'm really grumpy, I'm and they just beat me back with kindness, oh, it's the worst. Like, you're just like, first you feel like a jerk, and then it's infuriating because they won't engage back. A lot of bullying, I think they want you to engage back. If you kill them with kindness, it's really hard to be mean to someone who is like really helpful to you. So if you know, like, just, I mean, in addition to just this is a nice thing to do, but if someone's really being like awful, just be a useful resource to the unit, which is a good idea anyway. But in this situation specifically, answer everybody's call lights if like you have time. You notice their patients need something, do it. Be a team player. When people are like, hey, I need help turning this patient, or I need help changing them, be like, okay, you know, don't make it a problem. Just be like, all right, let's go do this. Your patient needs help with this, I got you. If you are a helpful team player, it's kind of hard to be mean to you because you're helpful and you're helping them do their job. It's hard to be mean to super nice people that are helpful. Third tip, do not beat drama with drama. If someone's coming at you being really mad, if you react to them in an angry way, that's feeding whatever they've got going on. So just, they say something to you, even if it's really mean, you don't have to respond. You can say you can just be like, okay. A lot of the times I'll just be like, I think that's pretty inappropriate. I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that's like, I think that's a really inappropriate response and I deserve more respect than that. Or something along those lines where you're just really calm and then cut it off. Don't engage anymore. Don't talk about it with other people. One of the worst things you can do is go and say, they come at you and they're like, well, I think you're just a terrible nurse and your hair is too brown. Don't go to your nursing friends and be like, oh my gosh, did you just hear what Amanda said to me? And go on, and then it just creates gossip, and then you're kind of being, you know, like you're adding to the negativity. Just try to add positive, don't add negative. Don't engage they're not reasonable people if they're already doing this. Just cut it off right there. Tip number 4, and this one is hard. I have never had any luck seeing anyone ever go to management reporting bullying. And I know this might be different at your institution, but at mine, on both of the units I've ever worked on, and at anywhere I've ever done clinical in school, reporting someone for being mean, first your manager's just gonna come back and be like, did you talk to them yourself? Because I mean, they aren't gonna know how to fix the problem. And then you just look like a tattletale, and that's going to encourage the person who's being kind of the bully to be even worse and get all of their minions to be worse to you as well. I've never seen that strategy work. Let me know down in the comments if any of you have ever seen that strategy work, but that is not something I would ever recommend just because I found it goes nowhere. And it typically just makes the situation worse. And talking to the person kind of leads into my 5th way of managing it. And without being dramatic, that's the key. You can kind of just say, hey, I don't believe there's any reason for you to talk like that to me like that. When you talk to me like that, I feel really disrespected and like you don't view me as a team player. I'm not into it. Please don't talk to me like that anymore. It can be way even simpler. And you use all I statements. None of like, you did this, you did this. You just say, I don't like the way you're talking to me right now, so I'm going to leave. Simple as that. I don't like the way you're talking to me. Please stop. And you don't have to be like nice and like, hey, I literally told people like, hey, I don't like the way you're talking to me. Your tone is not making me feel good. I'm gonna go. We can talk about this later when we're both maybe a little bit more level-headed. It's just like that. And that's hard to do because you want to fight back, especially if they're blaming you about something or saying you're bad at something, you did this wrong. You aren't going to respond well. So just, hey, nope, this is how you're making me feel. None of the like, you did this, this is what you're doing, and this is why it's bad. All I statements. And you're allowed to say it and then just go. That's what I would recommend. And my 6th tip would be do some self-reflection. And this one is hard. Usually I found bullying occurs either because one, the person is really mean and has low self-confidence and has a lot going on with their life, so they're taking it out on you, or 2, you are doing something that is kind of ruffling the feathers of everybody, and in turn people don't like you, so they're being mean to you. Bullying is never your fault. I just want to lay that out there. It is never your fault. However, I have been a mentor for a lot of different nurses, and a few of them were experiencing a lot of bullying, and I really encouraged them to just do some self-reflection. Some of these nurses were like never answering other people's call lights. You would ask for help and they would literally run in the other direction. They were very like their own task oriented, which is okay. As a new nurse, like you are task oriented, but this was like longer than that, to the point where like they wouldn't even get little things for other people. They were late all the time. They called in all the time. Behaviors where it was detrimental to the unit as a whole. And they were getting bullied for it. Like people were mean to them because they were like, I'm sick of you always not being a team player. So like I said, bullying is never your fault, but if you've done all these other things, just have a little bit of self-reflection and be like, am I doing anything that may be disruptful to the unit to make people not like me so much? And maybe just try to work on some of those behaviors. Like I said, I've mentored a lot of people, and I've seen this a couple of times where and it's hard to have to be like, think you need to self-reflect a little bit on what maybe you could change to make yourself a little bit less of a target for this, because people aren't going to be thrilled with you if you're always late, if you're not helpful, or if you're just like if every time you come to work you're like, I hate being here. No one's gonna be like, I want to be her friend and say nice things about her. You know what I mean? So again, bullying is never your fault, but I think you can do things sometimes to reduce the attention that is given to you. Okay, so now I want to look at what to do if you see bullying. You're not maybe necessarily on the butt of bullying, but you're seeing it. So this is hard if you are the person, like you're in a group, you have your nursing buddies, and all of a sudden they start like being really awful to this person, and that kind of puts you in the situation where you're like, oh my gosh, like I am part of that group now. I've experienced this where I've had friends and all of a sudden a new person came on the unit. We had only been there maybe like a year, and they were just mean to her. And it took me a minute to really be like, oh my gosh, like I'm not doing the bullying, but I am associated with the group that is obviously being mean to this girl. And so don't just be like, peace, like those are your people. But I think the best way to tackle this is just leading by example. So in those situations, I very consciously tried to, as soon as I saw that happening, I left. I would go over, and I was not part of that conversation. And I admit, I was not the bold person who was like, all right, ladies, let's not talk mean about these other people, because I just wasn't at that point in my life where I felt like I could do that. I think now I might be a little more like, hey, shut up. But then I was not like that. So an easy thing I did was I left. I did not associate myself with that conversation, and I would seek out that person at some point, during that shift, whatever, and talk to them in like a friendly way. Just be like, hey, how are you doing? Do you like working here? Do you have any questions? Like, can I help you with anything? How are you doing? And that sets an example of kind of like, hey, you're talking to this person. And I found that sets a good example of like, you're showing, I'm not going to be associated with this, and I'm actually going to actively reach out to this person to try to make them feel included. And I have noticed, it was really cool on my old unit, there was a huge culture shift kind of with me and a couple other girls started doing this, where we would disassociate ourselves from the negative talk that was going on and actively sought out these people to kind of include them. And really night shift became this really cohesive thing that there was not a lot of there really wasn't a lot of bullying, because other people led by example. They kind of were like, oh, I guess that is a jerk move. Like, I guess we could just be friendly. You don't have to be best friends with everybody, just friendly, just be nice. And now how to deal with cliques. I've gotten this a lot, like this clique, they're not necessarily bullying me, but I'm not in that group. And this is just general life stuff. I've dealt with this, I feel like, for my whole life, is you're kind of like, ooh, I'm being excluded from that group. They don't want to hang out with me. Who cares? And I know that's hard to digest. I've gotten a lot of questions about how do I get into that group? And guys, you don't want to be in that group. If they're an excluding group that is super into themselves and ooh, you're not in our group, you don't want to be in that group. I remember in high school and part of college, I tried so hard to get into those groups, and then you get in and then you're like, oh, you're all mean and kind of catty, and I don't why did I want this? You want people to like you for you. If they don't like you for you, you don't need them, okay? And that's hard to hear, and I know it's probably not what you wanted if you were the ones that asked me this question, but you don't need them, okay? You want people who are going to like you for you and want to help you, because let me tell you, at 4 a.m. when your patient has an enormous blowout and they're in droplet precautions and you're gonna need massive help to handle this situation, you want people that that are your people and to help you. And your people aren't going to be the ones in the clique that are, judgy and whatever. That's just my little speech on you be you. If they don't like you, be nice to them, be kind, but people are gonna like you for you, I promise. And if you're not in that group, it's okay. All right, so that's kind of everything that I think I have dealt with, and my tips for working with bullying would be, let me know what you have done to kind of like, or do you have strategies that work to combat bullying? Do you have things you've seen that have been really effective? Have you seen a culture shift anywhere you work? You don't have to be a nurse. This is everywhere, guys. Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to kind of interact with that, get to know what those were so I can implement them. And I think other people would benefit from it as well. So yeah. All right, so if you guys are new to my channel, I just want to say, hey, I'm Liz. I do videos just kind of vlogging my life as I am going through nurse practitioner school. I do videos on my experiences I gained from being a nurse, a new mom, all of that good stuff. So if you're into that, make sure to subscribe down below. I would love to have you in my community. I hope this was a little bit helpful for you guys. And as always, if you have any questions, leave them down below and I will get to them as soon as I can. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful week and I will see you later. Bye.